listening to Ladies Night on the Provoke Inspire podcast.
Ladies Night. Ladies Night.
During the day.
Welcome.
Hello.
With that intro
Hi.
music, I always feel like my tone needs to be a little bit different than with the fellas. With the fellas, I'm all peppy. I'm all like, welcome. But for that, I feel like it should be like, welcome.
For the guys,
the
you
provoke-
act like a clown?
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited. I'm on 7 cups of coffee. I'm wearing a very festive shirt for those that are watching. We're actually live on YouTube as well as Facebook today. So that's exciting. Probably a few new of you people out there going, what is this? What is this I'm tuning into? This is the Provoke and Inspire podcast, ladies edition, otherwise known as If the Shoe Fits. That's what Courtney wants to call this because that's what she always says about me. Jody, what's going on? What's happening over there in New Zealand? Virus free?
Yes, we have nothing. We are free. We are on level 1, which means we are absolutely able to do anything we want.
Now,
Oh,
Anything?
was this accompanied by just sort of a nationwide just initiative of streaking? Like, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like, I feel like
Yes.
streaking kind of would be a right way to celebrate this.
It was everywhere. It was sometimes
Sounds really
fright-
cleanly too, right?
Sometimes it's very frightening, but everybody
Yeah.
was free.
Yeah. David told me that he saw Graydon just streaking down Pekka Way, just
I-
free as a bird.
I wasn't going to bring up Graydon, but it was a frightening moment.
It was. Gabe, we miss you. As
Aw,
the official
Gabe.
sponsor of Ladies Night,
Gabe.
you are in our hearts
Yeah.
and shall always be in our
Or as
hearts.
Tay says, bag.
Yeah, she calls him Bag
Oh,
because she can't say
Bag.
Gabe. Hey, but you know what, Bag? At least we can fill you with stuff. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Hey, Gabe, I thought I saw you with a girl on.
What?
I
What?
don't know. I was.
Were you in Brazil, Jody?
gossiping, Jody.
No, but online. I don't.
Were you guys in a chat room?
Is this some sort of online forum?
Where did you
Please.
see him with the girl?
Please
No,
do
Jody, it was
elaborate.
a compact school with 800 people. Come on.
Was
Yeah.
it? Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not, I couldn't remember. I've seen too many things on.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
earlier today, so my son and all week has been going to a camp, which is awesome because we never thought it would be open, but he was
Really?
able to go. Yeah, it's been great.
I shed a few tears when I got the email that it wasn't.
No, she
canceled.
didn't. She also did a little streaking, but anyway, that's nor here nor there. But the point is, he comes home today. I pick him
Yeah.
up, and apparently he's befriended this young lady. And I said, Macklin, did you find out the name of your lady friend? And he goes, no, she still won't tell me. and so it turns out that he's discovering at a very young age something that all of us men soon figure out. And that is that they just don't hand over their names like, free candy at a grocery
Yeah.
store. Macklin, you got to earn that. You
Yeah.
got to earn it. So be nice. Be nice.
Yes.
All right. So
He's
we're going to
cool.
talk about teachability today, a very important subject. We live in a weird world where everybody's a critic. And so you can kind of go the opposite direction if you're not careful, where you choose not to listen to anyone. And that would really be a shame because I think being teachable is one of the most underrated life skills and biblical things that you can have in your life. I think the lack of teachability is one of the saddest things to watch develop in someone because it just keeps them in a state of arrested development on and on throughout their life. So we're going to talk about teachability. But before I get to that, I want to mention that we have another compact school coming up, right? Oh, that's my email. I'm not sure. Dates, July 10th to the 19th.
That's right.
We did our very first worldwide online Steiger Compact School. And it was awesome. Jody, how about you give us your perspective on it? Because I had to be fair to people, I had a fairly limited interaction compared to some of you. So can you share just briefly what it was and why those that missed it should be part of this next one?
First of all, it was so incredible because we had all these people from all over the world, online together. And then we thought, okay, no, we need to make it small too. We need to be able to talk kind of, one-on-one or a smaller group. So we had small groups that we would to go off on and just talk about what's going on with our personal lives. But then we had this amazing teaching from all these people that are out there doing crazy things with God, believing for miracles, doing all this amazing stuff. So it was just incredibly vibrant. It was alive.
Yeah,
and
shockingly, right? Given that it was
yeah.
online. Yeah.
Yes. So come, you need to be at this next one. It will change your life.
Here's the information, July 10th to the 19th. Hit that big registration button. Do it if you don't even know what it says. Let's say you're from a country where they don't speak English, but red is always exciting. So hit that red button. Be part of the Compact School. Don't miss it. You will gain access to not only our teachers from all over the world, but you'll be put into a group with other people. There will be outreach components to it. And it is incredibly vibrant despite what you might think of an online school. I think it was one of those kind of crazy things where God kind of took a rough situation and turned it into something very cool. And so don't miss that. Be part of the next one. Yes, Jody?
We have translation for if you don't feel like, oh, I don't speak English. Don't worry. We have translation. We had, I think, I don't know. Anya, did you know 7? Maybe 7. Not that you
lots of languages.
It's 6 languages, and there's Chinese.
Oh, that's so
Apparently,
cool.
Chinese is very similar to Polish.
Yes, exactly.
No. Polish, as I've already said, is a bunch of people in a tent sharpening knives. All right, moving on. Look,
it's true. That's how it sounds.
Yeah, that's what I figured out, because one time I was walking by a tent at Slot, and I thought, what is that? Is that a knife sharpening workshop?
No.
But no, it was just a bunch of natives drinking coffee. So there you have it. Gabe, I have to mention this again. Gabe goes, tell me that. I want to see a girl with me too.
Oh, really? Wait a minute.
Johnny,
Wait a
it
minute.
was
Maybe
600 people. Come on.
Yeah. And Marcel says, that's how you get a girl. You sing. So Gabe, maybe you should try that out. Use some of them pipes you got going on. All right, moving along. Look, I want to mention to the people that you guys have been incredible. We have had probably the last 10 days is probably the most popular 10 days we've ever had in the history of this podcast. I mean, I don't know where these people are coming from, but you guys are listening. It is growing like crazy. It is incredibly encouraging. And so thank you so much for your faithful listening and for rating this podcast and reviewing it. I think
it's probably because of us ladies.
Yeah,
right? It's not because of you.
There's a direct correlation to the inclusion of the ladies.
Yeah.
And the
just don't want
diminishment
you
of
to
the
get
men.
too proud.
No, I shan't. But look, word of mouth has always been how this podcast has grown and spread, and that continues to be the case today. So if you've been a somewhat regular contributor, listener to this podcast, consider rating and reviewing it, but also consider telling somebody in your life who would appreciate this conversation. Again, I think what this is about is that we want to know and serve Jesus. That is our hearts as people, and we want to invite you into a conversation that would help you do that as well. That it's not about us having all the answers. It's about inviting you into this journey of radical Jesus following and a life-changing kind of faith. And I think that's what's so vibrant about this Compact School, and hopefully about this podcast too, is that you can find kindred spirits, people that want to take this Jesus thing seriously and apply it outside of the church. I think that's the big thing. How do I see God's power outside of the church? I want to see it in with my friends, in my workplace, in my school. I want to be able to interact with issues of the day in a way that Jesus would. That's what this is all about. You can join our Provoke Inspire podcast community on Facebook. That would be a really good thing for you to do. It lets you continue to have the conversation, meet some of the people that listen to this regularly. Also, every single week, we have one of us come on and do sort of just a personal live stream just for our community. And so you get access to us in a way that nobody else does. So consider joining us there. All right. So today we're going to talk about being teachable. And really, I think when this really became something that really stood out in my mind is I was watching a TED Talk, actually, and it was from a secular psychologist. And this guy said something that stood out to me in such a strong way that it was like, one of those kind of shaking moments. And he said, and I don't remember who it is, I apologize, but the point will be strong nonetheless. He said that your friends could tell more about what you need to grow in 5 minutes than you will spend in 10 years of self-discovery. That your friends right now could tell you everything that needs to change about you in 5 minutes. If they were just honest enough, and if you could receive that feedback, then it could take you 10 years of self-discovery to try to figure that out. And it just kind of burned in me, this idea that I want to be teachable. I don't want to spend 10 years doing what I could learn in 5 minutes. So Jody, maybe starting with you, how does this idea of teachability hit you? I know this is a big subject that you really love. So how about you kind of kick us off with your thoughts on it?
Well, it just makes me think about one of my team members. I was just working with him before we started working full time again. And I said to him, go to your friends and say, just ask them, how do you think, what should I be doing in my life? How do you see the vision for my life? And what is also things I could do if I change them, I would just completely be more free, more effective, more efficient, whatever. And he did that. And it's such exactly what you were talking about. It's such an amazing thing to do. And why don't we do that? I don't think we do it very often. And it's I think that's what we will talk about is there's a fear, they're going to attack me, whatever. But I love these things that we've been talking about, how really it gives us a chance to say, how do I want to live my life, to really think about it and make the changes so that we actually get there instead of just dream about it in our head.
Yeah. So why, again, if you're anything like me, my innate reaction to not only criticism, but the thought of criticism is like instantly something in me just springs up to resist it. Why do you think we are so resistant as humans to the idea of criticism?
I mean, I don't know why, really why we're wired that way, but I think every single person would say that it is even if you're good at receiving, I would say, Jody, you're good at learning from other people, but it's still in the back of your head always makes you feel like, oh, what are they going to say to me? Is it going to be okay? Even though it's going to be okay. I feel like you never lose that. You never lose that kind of just moment of, I don't know, because it doesn't feel good to be told. I think at the core of all of us, we obviously want to be liked, and we were wired to want to be in community and to be liked by others and to serve others and to be a unit. And so when we're feeling like somebody's speaking against us, it's making this divide and this desire in our hearts to be together, not on our own little island.
Yeah. What do you think, Anya? Why are we so resistant to this?
I think our relationships, the friendships that we call, they really are broken at the moment. It's not such a strong friendship that I remember when I was a teenager or when I was studying. I really felt like I was growing with these people and I could really trust them, and they knew me and I knew them. And of course, there was never easy to hear criticism. There was never easy to to hear something negative about yourself. But then nowadays I really feel like the relationships are so shallow that it's easier for people to criticize on Facebook and to do on Instagrams, to do some just nasty words because you don't think about, because this is only words that you write. That's why people just don't consider this as something serious. And I really believe that we need to really work on the stronger friendships and trust. And that's why I think this is really what is broken. And that's why we it's not easy to hear from somebody that doesn't know me criticism, because I feel like, is it really true? Is it really what he's saying or she's saying that it's true about me? And I have to take it in the loop and then just see. But when I know somebody, it's easier for me.
Yeah, no, and I think to broaden the conversation to the sort of the quality of our friendships, I think is a really important thing, because I think we have kind of reduced what it means to be a friend. And George has a great question. George from Lebanon, what up, brother? Related to the idea, let me just read it. People are resistant to criticism, and we should work on that ourselves. But should we also expect that people can speak criticism to us with love? Should we hold others to that standard, that it's not just sort of no rules, right? And we will get to that. Yeah. We will mention that, because I do think that is an angle of this, that it is not, what we're not going to say here in this podcast is that all criticism is equal. All givers of criticism are equal. It's not that. So we'll get to that. But I do think that's an interesting idea, that the quality of our friendships have eroded to such a degree where even the friends that we consider close, even family members, they can go years and never confront anything in each other at all. And so that's certainly an important aspect of this, isn't it, Jody? That we need better friendships. We need better people in our lives that are actually willing, that actually have the courage to speak out. Because I think it's really sort of a hidden version of selfishness to say, well, I don't want to hurt them, so I'm not going to point something out in them that I see that is hurting them. That, because that's really, who is that ultimately protecting? It's really just protecting you. In the end, true concern for someone is being willing to step out and take that risk and to take a stand and to say, I love you, but I feel like this is hurting you. And unless this changes, I think it's going to continue to hurt you. But isn't that part of this just a better form of friendship?
Yeah, I think something I thought about last week was you can handle any kind of conflict or any kind of maybe word from someone if you know they're in it for the long haul, that they are committed to you no matter what. I probably my closest friend in the world is a girl that she could say anything to me because she so loves me, and if she said it, I'd know that it was because she really cared, and she was willing, like you just said, Ben, to kind of do the uncomfortable, because it is true, it is uncomfortable to do the flip side, of saying it to somebody. Hey, if you would think about this, you would go so much faster, you would learn, you'd grow, you would be, but so at both sides, it takes a commitment and saying, I am in it with you. I am going to walk through life, our whole lives. And that's something beautiful that we give to people.
Don't you think at the core of this, though, is that the person that is able to receive criticism is someone whose identity is solidly on their relationship with Jesus? Because ultimately you need a foundation. The problem is, if you have a fragile foundation and you are not sure of who you are, you're not sure of your worth or your value, then criticism is a really risky thing. It's like you can't have a lot of much of a wind if you're a house of cards. Right. But if you're something that's solid, a solid structure, you can take that resistance, and it's going to be resistance, but it's not going to be fatal. So Courtney, isn't part of this, man, we need to all, because like we talked about at the beginning, we all are resistant to criticism. And so that's because we're all fallen, we're all broken. Wouldn't you say probably the deepest source of an unwillingness or a resistance to the idea of being criticized is that our foundation is not strong? And maybe that's kind of where we need to start in terms of trying to repair what's broken, so that we can be teachable.
Well, and like a common, we live in the trophy culture where everybody gets an award for, doing a mediocre job. And I think that it ties into this need to never be told we're wrong. And we've kind of now created this domino effect of we're just kind of wimpy. Like we can't take strong words because that means that there's something wrong with us, and there's not anything wrong with us.
Well, and that's maybe even another side of this, which is that this meritocracy that we talked about in the perfectionism podcast, which is where your identity becomes about doing and not being. And so that you need to sort of earn that. But then because we sense the fragility of people, we so lower the playing field that we can't let people fail because we recognize that their identity is in succeeding. So what's the solution, right? If you have a doing-based identity and you're a secular society that doesn't have a deeper foundation, what you have to do is just level the playing field and say that everyone's a winner and everybody's succeeding, because that's kind of a secular remedy to that problem.
Yeah, and I was going to say both the relationships and then also just our own need to never be wrong are very much tied together, because we live in a world, even if we just look at the structure of marriage, like we don't get married anymore because we don't want to have those long lasting relationships that hold us accountable. And I on the radio today, I heard this commercial that was for a divorce lawyer. And I wasn't even thinking of saying this, but it just came to my head about how, like, in the commercial was on like a regular radio station. It was like, we all know it's been a really hard quarantine, and maybe now you're finally realizing that the person that you're living with is just kind of bugging you. So we here at blah 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 blah, and it's honestly what it said. I was like, is that what that, like, did that commercial just say, like, we get that maybe you realized you don't want to be married to your partner anymore because they're kind of annoying. I'm like, that is the culture.
Hello.
That's like the culture that we live in, where we just get rid of things. Oh, we're fine.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Wow.
I'm just saying I'm annoying him. You didn't make any phone calls.
I didn't call whatever it's called. No, but that's I was just honestly was like just so in shock. Like, that is the kind of culture that we live in, where we just get rid of stuff that doesn't suit our needs and that's not working for us. And I mean, and marriage is in danger. It really is. And that's, I think, one of the most important relationships for learning about teachability, maybe the most important, and maybe even the only one where you can really, truly, at the end of the day, know that that person is really being criticizing you or teaching you they're not going to go anywhere. I don't know if a friendship will ever have that same foundation that a marriage has.
And Jody, you mentioned right in the beginning, right? You want criticism from someone who you know is in there for the long haul.
Yeah.
Well, by definition, the covenant relationship that is a marriage should, in theory, be that I'm in this.
Yeah.
Like, literally, death is the only thing that's getting me out of this. And so while I'm here, let's make this thing better, and I might, not wear a helmet while, riding around on my bike just to like ramp up the chance. Anyway, no, that was a bad, sagoo, as they say.
Yes.
Well,
So
sorry.
I do think it's important, of course, and within the marriage relationship, it's awesome. You can really risk some things if you have that promise that I'm with you and I'm not going to bail. No matter how hard it gets. But also, I think for people that aren't married, there are relationships that they can have that where it's deep and it's real, and they're there for the long term, and they are willing to go, just think about this and you'll be amazing, more amazing than you are. You know what I mean? And but I think we need to broaden that. It's not just marriage. That's an awesome thing, but it's also, I think like I said, with this friend of mine, God uses her in my life, and I don't know what I would do without her. So it doesn't have to be in the marriage. It's just, am I in there for the long haul? And yes, in a minute.
Yeah.
I just think we should look at that identity. What makes it easier to
Go ahead.
I really would like to say something about identity, because this is actually the subject that I'm really studying at the moment, and I'm looking at this just looking what Jesus said about that, but also how does it look like now in the church? Because I don't know if you can see it in your churches, but here in Poland, I feel like when you are evangelist, you are usually very, active person. You're doing a lot of things, and you just, it's very optimistic. So it's great to be in the church. But most of the time, the evangelist is just put in the church in the way like, oh, you do this event, or you organize this in the church. So you don't have so much time to go and be evangelists. You don't have time to go onto the streets to build relationships outside of the church. And why I'm saying that is just, I really believe we all have identity very strong in Jesus. And this is what I really, I feel like we have to run in our shoes. But most of the time we don't have possibility to be in our shoes, because people want to put us somewhere in different places, and that you should do this. And it's also about how people look at us and what's the most visible role. So people are jumping to the roles to be visible, to be noticed, and then they are not in the role that they should be. I'm not saying sometimes, there are leaders, there are pastors, there are people that they are just, in the worship. But sometimes I feel like everyone wants to be visible. And then this causes that people are not doing their jobs. And that's why criticism is coming very often, because they don't know how to do their job, because it's not very natural instinct. It's not
Yeah.
their nature. So that's why I really feel like this is so important, that we need to really create strong identity in Christ, because then
Yeah.
we know what we do, we know who we are, and then it's easier for us to get criticism as well, because we know what they are talking about to us as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that's awesome. And I think I would take it just in another way as well, is for me, humility is a word that's becoming one of my favorites. And what it is it, for me, humility brings a rest. You have met with your Creator,
Yeah.
and He's given you an identity in Him, and it gives you rest. And so then you have nothing to prove. And a lot of this is saying, is I want to say this, and I don't want to listen to you, and I and then we criticize, and it's no, you just, there's a rest there, that, and freedom to just let God be God. That's all sorted, and then you can just you can just be cool. Basically,
Yeah.
you can be calm and go, okay, I can listen to that. Yeah, that's cool. My identity is good. God's got me.
Right.
And I can go, okay, maybe I should add that. Lord, what do you think about this?
Hmm.
And it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, humility is such an incredible part of this. I think pride, a little bit back to the identity thing. I do think there are people who grew up in very traumatic environments. There are people who were criticized a lot, were not affirmed very much. And for those people, there needs to be some real healing in their identity to be able to receive criticism. It's very hard to disassociate loving criticism from an attack on them as people, because of the experiences they had. I have to say this because you're on this podcast, but I came from a family where we were very much encouraged verbally and supported in every way. And so I will fully recognize that I probably am at a starting point that not everyone is, in terms of their ability to hear criticism. And even I, all given all that, still find myself so resistant to it. And so firstly, I think their identity is a critical part of this. And for some people, they're not starting at 0, they're starting at minus 10. And they need to really work through that and allow, Lord willing, loving people in their lives to be tough enough, in the sense that they need to be healed in order to be teachable, because ultimately it's not just endless cycles of healing that never leads them to a place of strength, because ultimately that's detrimental to the person themselves. You don't want to stay in a state where you can never hear anything, because without criticism, there's no growth. But I do think we need to recognize, that some people, they're starting at a place where, even the smallest criticism is a deep, deep personal attack, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that I grew up in a very good family, but I will say that I am very different than my family. And so like a narrative that I heard my whole life was like, you're so dramatic. And nobody really probably even understood that was not a good thing to say to me. But me being, I'm very strong, and I'm very determined, and I have lots of emotions and lots of things to say, but then that was always skewed as to, oh, you're so dramatic. And not just only my family, because to be fair to them, they didn't know that was going to be so hurtful to me, to just say I was dramatic, because they're so quiet and and not like me. But then other people would say that to me. And so then when that carried on into other parts of my life, where people would say like, you're so dramatic, I had a really hard time being teachable at all for the longest time, because in my head, I'm like, that person doesn't even take me seriously, because they think that I'm just full of drama, and not like I'm making up stories, but like everything I'm doing is like too much for them, too much to take. And even like for Ben and I know that's something that we've had to really work through, is just like, that's such a trigger word for me if he ever like says to me like, oh, don't be dramatic, because to me that's not a good thing. Like that means that you have a lot of things wrong with you,
just undercutting your passion. Yeah.
And I'm like, so it's a big thing like for our kids, that we don't ever say to them that they're dramatic, because I don't ever want them to associate big emotions with being dramatic, because you are totally allowed to feel big emotions and have like big ideas about the world. And it doesn't mean that
You don't have to be put in your place.
it doesn't mean it's a negative thing. And so I totally agree with, like, I feel pretty confident in who my identity is in Christ. And yet I still had to really work through kind of tearing down this wall in my life that I am, the things that make me good are actually the things that people told me for so long were like the bad parts, because I was dramatic, if that makes sense.
No, totally.
No,
And so, yeah, I agree with you. Like, people are, we're some of us, and I had a good life. So I'm probably starting from, you know, here, and people, but other people had hard lives with parents that weren't supportive and not endless opportunities. So it's not like we expect people to just have arrived at understanding what it means to find your identity. Because it's not, that's like the hard, I mean, it is
Probably the hardest
thing
Yeah.
about coming to a full relationship with Jesus is understanding who you truly are in his eyes.
Yeah.
and having him speak to you, and getting away from the other voices that we've heard, as we've
Yeah.
grown up, that have been very destructive, but to let him say, I love you. I've made you in a particular way for a reason.
Mhm.
But that's really opening your heart to him and allowing him to do that work so that you can come to that rest and go, I'm good.
Mhm.
It's cool, interesting how, when he created creation, and he said it's good.
Mhm.
And that's what he wants to say to all of us. He made you passionate, and you're going to go and get the job done, and you're just alive, and he made you that way for a reason, and you need him to say it to you, and also you need other people around you that are in it for the long haul to speak against that and say, this is who you are.
Here,
It's beautiful.
Here's a I think this is a great segue, because what I was going to talk about now is, okay, assuming you have the identity piece check, like, right, we're going to spend our whole lives working on that. But assuming that's the case, how do we give and receive criticism well as followers of Jesus? How do we give criticism well as followers of Jesus? That's kind of what I want to segue into now. And the reason why I want to do this, first of all, I want to distinguish this from conflict. This is not conflict. Like, if everyone's gonna have conflict in your lives, and there's biblical ways to handle conflict. Matthew 18:15, go to the person, not to someone else, to the person. Deal with them directly. Work with it, work it out. If you can't work it out, bring another person. If that doesn't work out, bring the church, whatever. That's conflict. I'm talking about something else here, which is being in the kind of community and relationship where people love you and have your back. And the thing that has always stuck out to me is the difference between a coach and a critic, or the difference between a coach and a cynic. And now there's the famous Oscar Wilde quote that says, a cynic knows the price of everything, but the value of nothing. Right. And so the idea there is they know what everything's worth. I know the price, they've got everything figured out, but they don't see any value in anything. And also what you were describing there, Jody, is a coach, because what a coach does is they look at Courtney and they say, what is in her that I can develop? What is in her that is awesome and godly? And how a coach looks at the athlete and says, what natural God-given ability is in there that I can now come around and develop? And sometimes a coach has to say, there's a part of you that is awesome, but if you don't change this, you're not going to be as good of an athlete as you can be. You're a really natural runner, but the way you hold your hands is slowing you down. But the way a coach comes at you is not standing off at a distance saying, you're doing it wrong, but they see the potential and they want to develop in you the best thing that you can possibly be, right? Isn't there some of this is distinguishing between being a coach and a critic?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're creating an environment where someone can grow and be believed in, and yes, held to do better because I believe in you. It's a whole different way of thinking and talking.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
It's really amazing, this subject about the coach, because I used to be a swimmer, and I spent 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then during the weekends we had to go to the competitions and stuff. So my first coach was amazing. I I started when I was 9, and he spent with me every day, and he knew exactly which style is my strong, what I like, what I don't like, how much he can push me, how he shouldn't push me, like, and he individually went to everyone. So we had our even, like almost individual trainings, because you have this style, so you have to do this, and then and we were doing amazing. We were one of the best teams in Poland. So this was just like something that we were pushing. We knew that we want to do it because he could see us,
He
like
believed in you.
personally. Yeah. And every time when he said, Anya, you are not doing good, but he never did it on front of everyone. He
Huh.
always took me aside and he was talking to me, Anya, you're not doing good because you are not doing this and this and this. And I was like, okay, I will try my best. If you will do it on front, I will be just humiliated and I will just really feel bad. And this is what happened when I was 13. They changed us the coach, and he just was awful. He was the the presentation of the worst coach ever. He just said, okay, everybody is swimming 5 times this, 2 kilometers with this style, and just like I just was like, I'm not this is not my style, I can't do it. And he was on front like, Aya, why you not swimming quicker, what are you doing? And I just started to feel sick, like mentally. I just felt like I can't take it. All of us, we gave up in 2 months. The team that was like the best in Poland at this time stopped swimming because he just crushed us mentally. And I really believe that this was like, I really believe in this. When you are a coach, you need to look personally. You have to do it individually and you need to know the person. And then I trust him. I can call him coach. The other coach, I never call him coach because it was just awful.
That's amazing. I wrote down this list. What is a coach? Knows and cares about the person, motivated out of a desire to see them grow, does it privately, not publicly, is in it with them for the long haul. I mean, you just literally in your story perfectly illustrated the list that I'd written, that it makes a good coach. And I think there's so much to learn about that, because it's not that a good coach is unwilling to criticize. And it's not even that we're unwilling to hear the criticism of a good coach. It's that we know that they care. It's that we deeply know that they care. And so I think that's part of it. And then it's so antithetical to the kind of criticism that's common in our culture, which is the opposite, because a critic does everything the opposite. They don't know or care about the person, usually, right? The worst criticism often comes from people that barely know you, right? You imagine being a celebrity. It's like, you have no idea who I am. It's not motivated out of the desire to see the person grow. It's typically motivated out to see them burn, right? It's always done publicly and for the purposes of humiliation. It's never done privately. It's always done in a way that could bring maximum humiliation. And it's by a person that could care less if they're here today or gone tomorrow. And so I think there's so much power in that analogy of being a coach versus being a critic. So yeah, I mean, that's that's crazy. I can't believe that it had such an amazing parallel there.
Yeah. Yep. So it's just to create that environment for people.
Yeah.
It's just so important. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Go
ahead.
can I just say something? I just really, because I was telling you about the coach that it was with the swimming and when I was younger, but I really believe, because I studied a little bit history of Poland and discipleship and mentoring, how it was developing. And basically the problem of not knowing who is my coach and to be a good coach is, at some point we stopped having mentors, we stopped having this one-on-one person to be with us and walk with us. And I think in the Christian world, that's really we need to really understand, because we are just into this, like, let's do Bible studies, let's meet in the churches, but we really need somebody to step with us and be our coach. And that I will call this person a coach. I will give this authority to this person, and this person then can say whatever wants because I will receive it, because this is my coach. And I think in the Christian world, this is what was missing in Poland, especially for the last 10 years. Like, people didn't have time. They was trying, like, put everyone in the same box. Okay, you do this, and then and it just doesn't work. We need to have one-on-one. We need to have this, this like almost intimacy. Like this is maybe the word, the wrong, the wrong
intimacy,
word.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just
Well, go ahead,
what's
Jody.
interesting. You know what's interesting about that though is that takes a great commitment to really walk with people and hang in there and have the time and say no to other things and make that person important. And what kind of culture, society do we have that we actually have that time? I think we need to, but it's you don't just take that easily because it's something. But again, maybe we're wasting time doing things that aren't important instead of those things.
Well, but you have to ask yourself, like, because I'll have thoughts like that, right? Well, the kind of those defeating thoughts of, well, is that realistic? And then you have to ask yourself, what are you after in life?
Right.
Like, what is the point? Is the point to be let's just make it very hedonistic and say the point is just to be happy or content or satisfied. Then even in that paradigm, I would argue, even from a secular perspective, having a few really good friendships is probably significantly more satisfying than having 100 trivial ones. And so if you're looking at it purely from a self-serving perspective, what we're doing is not working. People are so incredibly lonely. And I think what's so weird, and this is an interesting conversation, is we've created this weird polarization where what we have is, and we'll talk about the Christian community for a second. We have a highly individualized faith and then a highly corporate faith, but we have none of the critical in the middle, right? Don't you think that part of this is that what happens is I do my faith on my own where no one holds me accountable. It's just me and God, and I kind of can use that if I'm not careful as a front to not listen to anyone. Or I hide in the big crowd and just hope to kind of be zapped by the crowd vibes. Lord, I have a prayer that'll just change my heart. But what we don't do is the thing that we need to do most, which is probably surround ourselves with 1 or 2 or 3 people where we cannot hide and where we actually will have a hope of changing. Isn't part of this weird split between corporate and individual and lacking that middle ground?
Well, and that was kind of my point with the marriage comment, is that obviously not everybody needs to get married or should get married, but the culture we have created is just this quick move on to the next relationship. So whether that be in marriage or that be in friendship. Obviously marriage is a blessing. Not everybody gets to have it. That wasn't my point. My point is that we don't stick with anything. If you're annoyed with your partner or your friend during quarantine, we got a fix for that. You can call the lawyer or you can just defriend your friend. Okay. Yeah. Like we don't stick with anything. And it's a duel of our identity. We lack identity and we lack the ability to be pushed in our identity. And then we get rid of the thing that actually is going to help us find our identity.
Yeah.
Obviously we find our identity in Christ, but people are an amazing tool to help you walk through the truth and the lie in your life. And yet we live in this culture that just is, people are way too much work. Marriage is way too much work. Boyfriend, girlfriend, way too much work. Like, let's just do what's fun. Let's go to happy hour. Let's go to the gym classes. Let's go to church on Sundays. And then that's it.
Well, and kind of on a weird side note, I've even in the 2 days where things have started to lift here, I've had more random conversations. Like I go to Macklin, I go and sit at the park and 2 different groups of people just talk to me out of nowhere. Like, what are you doing here? What food are you eating? Like they were so desperate to talk. And then I go into the food place and the guy in the line turns around. He's like, hey, what's going on? Like, this is cool, right? It's like people are so incredibly lonely. But I think what it is that we've created a way to hide. And here's how you hide. You're alone or you're in a crowd. Now, whether that's social media or a literal crowd, those are the places you can hide, ironically, is in the big crowd or on your own. You can't hide for a couple of people that have known you for 10 years.
Right.
And I remember something that Matt Chandler said, the pastor from Dallas. I think it's Dallas. He's a lot of campuses. But anyway, he said that, what is one of the greatest challenges today he was particularly talking about young leaders. Young leaders. What's the biggest challenge of young leaders today? And he said that here's what they all want to do. They all want to write that book. They want to get famous. Then they want to become itinerant. So they want to break away from a church and just travel the country and speak and write books. And he said that is the number one problem, because there is nobody that knows them and that can hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And he said one of the greatest things that he has in his life is a group of people in the church he was part of that say, Matt, I knew you when you were just dumb and 20 years old. You're not that cool. I know who you are. Stick to what you said you're going to do. They can hold him accountable. And I think, man, I didn't know if I expected the conversation to go here, but the crux of this is, like Anya said, we have got to develop intimacy. We've got to get better friendships, and we got to stop hiding, because unless we do, that's why you can just be in a state of arrested development for 3 decades, because you never get close enough to anyone who can actually see and call out the things in your life.
Yeah, it's 2 different things, I think. One is yourself. Do you slow down? I mean, you've got, we all are on the whole social media, all the friends, and I mean, are they really friends, and all that, all that question,
Right.
but to actually identify, I'm gonna, you please hold me accountable. I need that. I want to grow. I want to learn. I don't want to be afraid of, oh no, she's coming to me. What is she going to say? I want to have a deep enough relationship with you to say, cool, she's got something for me. I will be stronger after this conversation. I can see it coming. And then there's the other thing of just, that's a personal thing of developing that. But then there's the other thing of, I have just been broken lately by it seems like every person I meet here is just, they will tell me these incredibly sad stories about how life is for them. And I think, okay, I need to be, and to be able to be slow enough and not adopt those goals like you were just saying, Ben. I just need to write my book. I'm not going to be there for people. I'm just going to write, you know what I mean?
Right.
To actually have the time to be that to them, where you would be there for the long haul and you would give these things that will just release new growth in them.
But that, if the body of Christ is functioning as it should, then that is what we all do. But again, this is a whole nother tangent, but we've created a spectator form of Christianity where the professionals do the Christian work on the stage and the rest of us show up and kind of receive and then move on. But that's why, Jesus modeled for us that he came on earth and invested in 12 dudes. Like, that's it, right? He didn't have a conference with 10,000 people, and he invested in a few people and it changed the entire globe. It changed all of history. And I think we've overcomplicated it, that we want it to be about all these things, when truthfully, it's more probably in that Jewish tradition of, you find that person to learn from, that rabbi, they'd find that teacher, and then they would literally follow that person around and live as they lived. And I don't think there's enough of an apprentice vibe in the church anymore. We don't I learned to pray because when I was 20 years old, David said, we're going on a prayer walk and then we're going to get coffee. And he showed me how to pray. I know that sounds weird, but he did. And that set me in a direction that has changed the entire course of my life, because someone said, this is what prayer looks like. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go on a walk and we're going to just tell God what we're thinking and we're going to figure this out together. And I learned that. And so I think that there's not enough of that simple one-on-one, take someone with you, teach them how to do it. And busyness is a large part of the problem, is we'd rather do 1,000 things an inch deep than do the humble, faithful thing. And again, it's back to that quote I said from that French philosopher, Alain de Botton. And he says, it's now become an embarrassment to be merely faithful rather than successful. And now we'd rather be successful, as in the book, the appearance, the optics, than to be the person that says, I'm going to take a few people and pour my life into them.
Yeah.
And I think you were really onto something, Courtney. Marriage is that foundational thing where it's like, you got this one person and then these kids, and they take so much of your time. And now as society, we resist that increasingly and foster off our kids and dump our partners if they don't suit us. Even that is becoming eroded. Because it's the never-ending quest for selfishness, and as we've already talked about, where does that get you? Alone. That's where that gets you. So
exactly.
But But I really believe that what you are talking about, Ben, I think we need to be, that's the word. I think it's for this, it's to be intentional, because Jesus was intentional in the discipleship of, of his disciples. He, from the beginning, he was teaching them. He had authority. And he said, this is what I'm teaching you, and this is what you will learn, and you will have even more. So I think he was from the beginning intentional, and they knew they need to learn so they can make another disciples. And I think this is what is missing. I think we are not intentional on things that we do in the churches now.
Yeah. And I think we need to be clear. Here's what we've done, and it's very sad. We have traded it's like there's a proverb about it, right? Like what's the proverb? Someone look it up, where like the wounds of a friend are like blessings. That whole concept, right? Okay, apologize. You
botched it.
I botched it. I'll
have it.
I'll have Kippy insert his actual voice into this part. Where it'll be like
George,
that one verse in Proverbs 32:14. It'll be very it'll be very obvious that it's not me, and then I'll But what we've done is we've traded a few deep, intimate relationships.
It's Proverbs 27:6. The kisses of an enemy may be profuse, but faithful are the wounds of a friend.
Right. So what we've done is we've traded.
I don't know what that was a weird.
And my enemies are just smooching me all the time. I'm like, back off, get your smooching lips off me. No, but in all seriousness, what we've done, and it's really sad, is, and there's a whole conversation related to individualism about this, but what we've done is we've traded these sort of bedrock foundations for where affirmation and criticism are all supposed to come together to form you, right? Like clay. And what we've done is we've said, nope, I don't want that. I don't want marriage. I don't want church. I don't want community. And then instead, we've traded that for the opinion of the mob, right? This fickle social media mob that does not care about us at all. And what we're not saying is open yourself up to the mob and everybody else and just receive criticism. No, what I'm saying is have a few people that know you, love you, are willing to speak hard things into you, and then bleep the mob. Then you can have confidence and be like, I don't have to defend myself. I'm not going to chase after every bit of criticism. I have people that are holding me accountable. I'm in a church community that loves me and is holding me accountable. And that actually gives me confidence to face the mob, I think, to create, to take a stand and to be bold in the face of criticism rather than what the world's done. And that's traded good criticism and replaced it for the wrath of the mob that sinks you, right?
I also think one of the lies that we've kind of created from this mob versus, mentality is that criticism within good relationships isn't actually that scary. And I would say 9 out of 10 times, it's not even the kind of criticism that's like, Jody, I saw this and this was bad. It's like we have these long-standing conversations throughout time that are just continuously refining me as a wife, as a friend. And so in my long-lasting relationships, I have 2 friends I can think of that I know are people that would call me out, but they don't really call me out. It's like we have these conversations that are ongoing, that are constantly challenging how I'm thinking, how I'm communicating, how I'm loving others better. And so I would say that we've almost polluted criticism because, yes, sometimes it needs to be the sharp, this is wrong. But a lot of times, and I would say most of the time, it is something that it comes with the beauty of relationships, something that kind of slowly chisels away at you. So it doesn't need to be so scary or so abrupt. And it's something that when you're in it for the long haul, that person's maybe not even, I wouldn't say your daily point is to chisel away at me, but it's that you see these things in me that you want to grow. And so you just help me by just speaking truth and by speaking what's right and speaking God's truth into my life. And it's not like you're wrong, you're bad. It's like a daily coming together to kind of be better.
But I mean, and we probably need to wrap things up soon here, but at the same time, I feel like the times when someone in the right way, because part of the problem is it's been done, criticism is often done so poorly. It's done passively. You hear it through somebody else. It's done with anger. It's done you know, after you heard from 10 other people that they're already thinking this. And then how many times have I had to draw out criticism against me from the person? All right, I know you think I suck, so just tell me already, because I've heard everyone else tell me that you think I suck. So why you might as well just tell me directly. But so we become kind of wounded by that.
Yeah.
But to that Proverbs point, the few times when I've had someone come to me in love, it's a little jarring, but when they've come to me in love and they've said, Ben, the way you did that, I didn't like it. It was not right. I love you, and I wanted to tell you. Once I get over my pride, it takes, can take anywhere from 3 seconds to 30 minutes. Once I get over that, I look back on those moments and I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful because I know that person loves me way more than the hundreds of people out there who've probably thought terrible things about me and have never had the courage to come and tell me and give me the chance to grow. And so I absolutely treasure the people in my life that, yes, will in the general context of the relationship chisel me, but at times just like you've had to do to me and like I've had to do to you and the best friends in your life have done.
I'm perfect.
Yeah, I did it one time, July 1963. It was a
I wasn't even
It was
born.
a crisp, cold day, and I said, your views on the atomic crisis are way off base. Pull yourself together, lady. Now make me a tea. And then she called me out for that clear chauvinism. Anyway, you know what I'm saying, right, Jody? Right, Anya? It's, man, you love those people.
Yeah.
You love those people that have the courage to say, man, I love those people, and we need that more.
Just one other part of it, maybe just to add is it's interesting is I was reading, different quotes, and Augustine said this. He said, "I err, therefore I am," and just that takes just dealing with the fear of just being corrected. Everybody errs, everybody makes mistakes, and so even that can help you go, okay, I'll breathe. And I'll listen to it. I'm just part of humanity. I can make mistakes as well as anybody, and there's there's a lot on it, but it's just, yes.
Hey, Jody, can you answer this question?
I was going to say,
Wait, I'm working through it. Oh, is this Portuguese?
It's Spanish.
Spanish.
I'm just missing luchando.
Back to the point. I wanted to read this from this article I was reading about. We can end this way from the Gospel Coalition. Ben and I both reading it about true leaders are teachable. It's the definition they say is to be teachable means you have the mindset of a lifelong learner. And I love that because I feel like it posed it in a way that's like being teachable doesn't mean you're just forever like getting, it's like you can view it as like I'm always learning. Like I wake up every day and like what can I absorb? What can I add to myself? And sometimes we just kind of need to change the way we think about something to make it easier. And so I love that. Like I want to be forever changing, forever learning. I never want to I don't want to be the same. Like that's not cool. That's not exciting. That's not even a worthy way to live my life. So like, how can I be better? Like I want to be teachable. And I love that. So it's just like a lifelong learner. Yeah.
And my little last tidbit de jour, and Gabe.
Why can't I be the last one to speak, Ben?
You can be the last one to speak.
Say another word after this.
I don't think I have any more profound thoughts.
Just make it up.
Okay.
Say it again. Say it again.
Here's one thing I'll say, and then you can literally just repeat the exact same phrase. So as to regain the last word, I think, yes, you can be a victim about it and say, oh, no one's ever, this is me telling this to myself. You can be a victim and say, oh, no one ever says anything about me, and oh, woe is me. And I think you need to create a culture of feedback. Like if you are in a marriage, if you're in a team, if you're in a band, if you're in a whatever, a church, and there's no feedback.
Well, your mom said that. She started off the podcast by saying she's mentoring that young man.
I know, but I was
saying go to people and ask them.
I know, but I was on Amazon buying some fluorescent shorts, so I wasn't paying attention. I'm just saying.
I could feel that.
Yeah, I mean, I was like looking for something profound to say. Instead, I just played this.
Yeah, there you go. There it is. Now remember, Courtney is going to end here.
Oh yeah, okay, Courtney.
No, I agree. You need to create it. You need to be teachable, and that means giving people permission in your life to speak into your life. If you are closed off, if you give the impression of get away from me, nobody's going to speak into your life. But if you allow it, if you tell them that they're your friends, that you want them to call you out, they're going to.
Yep, absolutely. And as we all remember, a wife for Gabe. Let's make sure we all get on this bandwagon, people, because I will not rest until Gabe has a wife.
Me either. We're here for
What have
for
you been
Gabe.
doing to help Gabe in his search for a wife?
I almost started a GoFundMe and then I ran out of motivation. I got halfway through printing t-shirts and then I ran out of ink. I put on boots, which is separate, but just so that I could be firm in my footing. I had some positive thoughts about it. So there's that. And I talked to a few girls.
We've lost 5 viewers since you went on that
Yeah.
tangent.
Well, I only know 2 girls, you and Tava. So I'm out of options.
What about
Sorry,
your
Gabe.
mom and Anya?
Well,
That's
I mean,
right.
I know you.
Oh, like you're talking about a wife for Gabe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tava's a little too young.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. So, all right. Anyway, I think this is a great conversation. Like usual, I feel like we kind of cut it off and we could have kept going. But we hope that you enjoyed it, that it was encouraging to you. It'll come out about 24 hours from now. As long as Kippy ain't slacking, drinking them South American juices and just like chilling or whatever in his hammock with his bananas and such. Anyway, so you can check this out 24 hours from now. Type in Provoke and Inspire on Google. It's in iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Deezer, whatever the heck that is. Check it out. Leave a review, leave a rating. And let's just keep this train going.
Broken record.
Let's just keep this train going. And now we're going to play the outro that features
dudes.
the dudes.
So we all quit.
What?
Right, Anya and Jody?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, Courtney.
Fine, it'll just be me
It was
and this guy.
It was a low-paying job, and we're not even in the outro. So I'm out of here. Okay.
Next week we're in there.
Yeah, well, I'll just have a bunch of still images like this and me.
Right.
And it'll be fine. I don't
That's
need
fine.
you.
I hate this photo, Ben. Please stop.
All right. Talk to you next time. I love y'all. Peace.